And we're live. January, how you doing?
I am great now, like 30 seconds ago, was
Yeah.
trying to get my tech camera on, but
Well, we got
I
big problems in the world today. Tech's tough. It's
you're
tough. It's not
you're
for the
right.
weak of heart.
It's not for the weak of heart. So I'm
Uh,
grateful now. So we got it all figured out. So
we're good. We're good. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Focused Free Fit. And let's get into it. So, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? I always like to start with hearing a little bit about you. I'd love for them to hear from you. Tell us about you, and we'll go from there.
great. So January Donovan, I'm the founder of the Woman School, which is essentially a mindset and skill set training on how to be a woman because there's no place today how to discover what true womanhood is and femininity. And so done it for 25 years. And also we have onboarded a wholeness coaching model that really coaches women how to be a woman. I'm a mom of eight. I'm passionate about reclaiming womanhood. I'm passionate about kind of reestablishing the role of men and the relationship of men and women working together. So uh, that's me.
That is a lot to unpack, I feel like. So let's talk a little bit about your business.
Mm-hmm.
What does it cover? Because I feel like that could be like an umbrella with
Sure.
all these branches underneath it. So tell me what exactly you guys work on, or what's the foundation?
Great. Well, and so really the business began for me because I suffered a lot, both mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, because I just didn't know how to design my life, how to make decisions. I lacked the skill training. And so I realized I wasn't alone in the journey. And 4 or 5 years, so I did it for free for 15 years. I trained women. And I use the word training, skill training very specifically because athletes train. Olympians train. And so women ought to train if we want to live that life that fulfills us. And so, almost 5 years ago, my husband came up to me and said, "You want to reach thousands or millions?" And I said, "Obviously, I've been doing this for free. I'm passionate about training women." And so we launched a school, went to 40 countries in just 3 years, built a pretty quick multi-million-dollar business out of my passion to training women. And I think what we realize as a business is there's a hunger for deep fulfillment in women. So the business is really giving women access to skill training that it's not that it's not available out there, it's available in a way that feels like it's all over the place. So our business is that we have a school that gives them foundational mindset and skill set training. They walk through our courses with a coach in a community, and that's how they receive massive transformation. So um, the business was really kind of twofold. There's a student track and the coaching track.
Okay. So before we get into all the questions I have about that,
Sure.
tell me what you did before this.
I created courses for women for free. I've done it. I had 4 children under four. I did it
Gotcha.
because I believed I would have live seminars actually, because at that point there was no online, and I would invite them and I would just train. And so that's really what I did. And I did one-on-one coaching. And at that time, it wasn't even called coaching. I've done it since, college. And so that's really sort of what just I was passionate about. And I didn't think I could put it into a business until I read Brendon Burchard's book, Million Dollar Messenger. I don't know if you're familiar, but
Hmm.
he basically said that your message, you can build an infrastructure to actually expand your capacity to reach more people. And I thought, oh, I never thought that it was an obligation to build a business in order to expand the message. I didn't see business as a way to expand the message until that point. And
Gotcha.
so my purpose shifted and said, oh, it's actually because there's no business infrastructure that this message is suppressed.
Okay. So explain to me what you taught. Like, what are you teaching women?
Great,
Like, what skills are we talking about
great,
here?
awesome, awesome. So I teach women how to honor every part of their life. So there's 8 parts in a woman. There's self-image, which is the opinion that they hold of themselves. We all have opinions that we have of ourselves. I'm just not good at. I'm great at. I'm confident. I'm not confident. So the self-image, then health. in the school, we teach it in a very integrated way: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So I actually teach them to manage your mind, manage your emotion, how to manage the body, and for spiritual receptivity. So in that order, our thoughts impact our emotion, emotion impacts our physiology and our spiritual receptivity, and then our friendship, which often no one talks about. Loneliness is an international crisis. And so I teach them the skills on how to be a friend and how to find friends, on that intimacy, the most sacred part of ourselves. So how do you have a fulfilling relationship? What are the skills you need to communicate effectively, to manage your mind, to be in a relationship where you're inspiring your spouse, your partner? And then your contribution, which is, how do you find work that you love that also fulfills you? And what are the skills necessary? And then your environment. What is it like to design an environment that allows you to grow and flourish? So you're doing that very intentionally in your home, outside your home, and in between. And then your wealth, which, as we define it, is an abundance of time, treasure, and talent for the purpose of contribution. And the purpose matters. And then your family life. How do you design a family? So I teach hundreds of skills that help you actually design every part of the arena: how to manage your mind, your emotion, how to manage frustration, how to walk in a room, your tonality, your body language, your ability to be resilient, make decisions. So the woman's school, by all and said and done, is about 100 practical skill set.
Gotcha. Okay. Tell me about why are women overwhelmed?
Because they're underskilled. If you go into a job and you say, let's just say you have an entry level skill level, office job, you know how to pick up the phone, you know how to say hi, and then all of a sudden you're put in a position where you have to be vice president. In order for you to actually assume the position, you have to have training, people skills, communication. But women are overwhelmed because there's no decision making skills. There's no manage your mind, your anxiety, and think about it. As women, we have to find the right person to surround ourselves with. We're the average of the 5 people we surround ourselves with, a life's partner, work we love. But we don't even have decision making in our school. We don't even know what we want and don't want. We don't know how to manage our emotion. We're just told we're emotional. But our emotions need to be ordered by our thoughts. So women are overwhelmed because, really, Frank, nobody's giving us the practical life training. Think about it. A lot of women right now are suffering because physically they don't feel good about their body, or they're just not healthy. And if I ask women, where did you get training in how to manage your sleep, to count your hours of sleep, to cause and effect? What you eat impacts how you think and how you feel. Where did you get training on actually how to design a menu, create a routine that allows you to honor your menu, learn how to study, what you eat? All of those training, own your kitchen, clean your kitchen fast. And so many women, they come into, as college, as in the workforce or in your relationships, without any kind of practical life training. I always tell women, I said, if you go into a relationship and you're expecting to be happy and you don't know that 7% are words in the way you communicate only, and 38% tonality and 55% body language, you might want a beautiful relationship, but you will suffer otherwise. You can't get what it is that you deeply desire, not because you don't want it, you just don't know how to achieve it. So I think I ache for women because they often blame themselves for the choices and the skills no one ever taught them how to make.
Do you think that I I feel like this isn't just a woman issue. I feel like this is
No,
a man issue too.
you're right. It is. We have a man's school.
So so I mean, really, and I think it's actually an epidemic for men in a different way in America right now.
Agreed.
And I'm not saying it's not necessary for both. I mean, it clearly is. So where do you start? I mean, is there pieces and you say, hey, look, I can work with you on this one section and then we'll take it from there? Or is it like, come for 2 days and you're healed? Like, what does this look like? What's this process like?
Yeah, I think the first decision to make is to invest in your life of wholeness and to
Mhm.
invest in you for the rest of your life. I think that actually is the mental shift. So we think of the way we kind of see education system. You come into school and then you go out of school and you're done learning, right? And maybe you go to the workforce. I think the narrative or the mindset culturally shifts should be that we train for life, that needs to be the mindset. So where do you begin? You begin by saying, you know what? It's time for me to invest in the mindset and skill set training that I actually need to design the life that I actually want and deserve. Because you deserve peace of mind, but you don't know how to achieve it yet.
Hmm.
So does everyone else. We all want quality friendship. I mean, what are the stats in men? Only 50% of men, they can say they have somebody to call to. You know, uh, I would say, what is it? I think 3 out of 1 suicide for men as opposed to women. So think about the kind of friendship that I cultivate in our culture today. Let me just give you an example. We spend a lot of time hanging out, a mile wide, but perhaps an inch deep. If you have never been trained, Frank, to go to look at your friend and say, how are you? No, no. How are you? Tell me what's going on. I can see something behind your eyes. Is there anything that I can um, walk you through? And that's considered strength, or I think there's also this convolution of almost extreme where men are really ostracized for not being emotional, right? And it's like, men, why are you not emotional? But the idea is that we have to start looking at the men's strength. Like, I don't want an overly emotional man. A man should have the capacity to hold space for his emotion, but not to a point of weakness. I want a man to say, in my emotional state, I got you. You can lean on me. I need your strength. But I think there is negative impact on the radical feminism on men. And I am a big proponent. When I talk to men, I said, you have been robbed because the massive rapid emasculization of men while women were trying to find their place in the world really sidelined your strength. And women and men who wanted to be strong um, were ostracized, who wanted to open the doors, who wanted to protect. And, if a man has nothing to fight for, they feel purposeless. And if a woman has no one to care for, they feel also purposeless. It's a very different gift.
Hmm.
And I think that not that you can't nurture, not that I can't, you know, protect and have that, but I think we've kind of have this convoluted and the pendulum has swung so bad. And I think it's time to say, you know what? I honor you for being a man. No, not feminine energy man, just your manhood. And that I respect it and that I honor it and that I value it. And I know I'm not here to emasculate you. I'm here to be your helpmate and to do that in friendship, to do that in relationship, to do that in our work environment. Because right now we've got this movement of boss lady and alpha men. It's like I can do whatever I want, sleep with however men I want, whenever I want to, when I feel want to. And this boss lady is like, I don't need a man. I can do everything that a man does, neither of which, creates a flourishing society. We now have data that no matter how successful a woman is, whether she's made billions, she still wants a man to feel like she can lean upon. Like, and no matter how much money a man makes, if they don't feel like they're fighting for something and a purpose, they feel weak.
Well, it drives you the growth, right? And so your
A
purpose,
purpose.
you're purposeless. And so there's no meaning, like you said.
Yeah. But I think even having the meaning in context of what makes us uniquely man and uniquely woman, and it's not political. I think it's just practical. When you think about the replacement of motherhood, even in the context of the way it's being defined as chest feeders, I keep thinking, just give that to the woman. We don't need men to be chest feeders.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, please
Yeah.
stop convoluting and confusing. I have 8 children. I will tell you, my husband cannot do what I do and the level and capacity that I have, nor can I do what my husband does. And thank God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You
I'm
you have
fighting
to
for
be,
men. That's what
yeah.
I'm doing, Frank.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's both. We have our roles and everybody just
Yes,
has to be comfortable with that. And what's wrong with that?
correct. See, the gender roles is under attack. Oh, my dad can cook. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't. It
Yeah.
just means don't, I'm no less of a woman because I want to own my kitchen. And that women should learn how to cook. I'm not saying you become a chef. I'm saying learn to cook enough to serve your honor your body. Because if you want to be healthy, women want to be fit, where they want to feel good about their body. If you don't know how to cook, you're going to be a slave to somebody else cooking for you and you have no control over your health. And learn how to cook for your man and learn how to cook that nourishes children. Like, That does not make me less of a woman, nor should not make me a second class citizen. I owe that to myself and my man and my children and my friends.
I love what you're doing because I think these are important. I think these are really important values to teach and to make sure that that everybody understands. You mentioned something earlier though that I want to go back to. So you said clean the kitchen fast.
Mhm.
What does that mean? Does that mean prep and cook in a way that it doesn't leave such a big mess that it takes forever to
Absolutely.
clean up? Is that what you mean?
Well, I'm saying that a woman should have the capacity to plan her menu,
Okay.
plan that's healthy, learn how to do things fast in the kitchen because we live in a world that's fast paced, and clean the kitchen in 10 minutes, not out 1 hour or wait till the whole day. Like that should be mastery. That should be a way we ought to honor our body. So, for example, I have 4 girls. I timed them. I said, you can clean this island in 30 seconds in a 3-step process, not 10 minutes. And I have a timer on my wall. No, I'm not, I have a magnetic timer on my
How old
fridge.
are they? How old are they?
She's 7, she's 8. I mean, I
Okay.
trained them since they're 4 years old. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I just train them, period. But
Yeah.
that's why I use that word. But it's only that. But I'm like, if you're not making your bed and you want to achieve great things, you've bypassed the mastery part.
Hmm.
So these things that we think are so seemingly insignificant, we need to bring it right back because right now common sense has become insignificant.
It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy. And I just want to kind of say, like, listen, most people actually are still living in common sense. And I often tell women, I say, listen, if we don't fight the battle right now of reclaiming the beautiful gift of being a woman and defend men, we won't have the next generation, which is by the way what's happening right now on our college campuses. It's becoming rare to find a woman who actually wants to honor her body, honor how to cook, respect a man, not I mean, it's insane. But they're becoming more attractive because I think men are actually saying, I'm not playing this game anymore. I don't want to be, sidelined and emasculated. So I think honestly, the men are leading the charge and they're pushing back against this radical agenda to emasculate them. So I just say, I'm right alongside you and I'm going to defend you.
I think it's important. I am one of the I am in that realm now and very much a part of organizations that that are very aligned with what you're doing, but it's multiple. Talk to me about let's talk about health a little bit. So what do you cover on the health aspect in the health realm?
Great. So I cover mostly the skill to think about the impact of what you put in your body
Okay.
and how to study how it impacts. And so I'll talk about nutrition, clean eating, just
Gotcha.
studying what you put in your body. I talk about the importance of sleep. I talk about the importance of movement. I talk about the importance of um, slowing down in our day. So, and it's not that I don't even have any insight on particular health because I really try to manage what I eat and believe it myself. I find that my audience are coming from different perspective. And so I want to try, I think health is a health journey, but I think there's a foundational skill set. Some people are
Yep.
coming in and they want to be gluten free or they want to be, and the way I sort of teach it is that you have to study what you eat and how it impacts you. And you just have to eat cleaner things and
Yeah.
uh,
Keep it simple.
keep it simple. And so I go back to then if you don't know how to clean your kitchen, you can't keep it simple. It's going to be really chaotic. And if you don't know how to manage your mind and have a really ordered routine, it's going to be really chaotic to try to keep it simple. Because simple is actually not easy. Simple is actually requires a lot more human discipline.
Very true. You seem like I feel like we're a lot alike in many ways. Are you a driver? Do you
Yes.
know a personality type? Are you
Yeah, I am
driver
a
and
driver. I'm a choleric. I'm a driver.
yeah.
But I have learned to be a driver in context of my femininity. And I think
Hmm.
that's an important skill that I continue to learn. And
Sure.
even as I grow into business, I want to make sure that I drive in a way that is congruent with what my gift as a woman, which is, I think, something that I continually have to skill up and train. And how do I do that in a way that is firm? How do I lead in a firm, but yet tender? that I don't compromise the very gift of being a woman.
Talk to me about raising kids. You clearly have experience, and I don't know how you do it with 8, but I'd love to know your take on just kids in general, with society, social media.
Mhm.
How are you raising your kids to be responsible? I think that's something that's important nowadays more than ever. Talk
Yeah.
to me about that.
I think the word that comes in is that you have to be intentional about raising disciplined children. I think disciplined is a word that we almost feel is not taught. So if your children are not disciplined and they don't have the training to be disciplined, and primarily because women might not have training on what discipline looks like, they are going to suffer when they're entitled. So I think that's the first one. Number two, skill training is crucial. And here's what I mean by that. If my children don't know how to enunciate, if my children don't know how to look people in the eye or how to greet people in a way that opens doors for them, they will be robbed with opportunities. If they don't know how to follow through, if they don't know how to be a woman of their word, if they don't know how to manage their mind and their emotion, they're going to suffer. So mindset and skill set training in context of our own home has to be a crucial part, I think, of raising children, which is in harmony with discipline. But in context of that, at least for a woman, it has to be a home that they want to feel they want to be. Like
Mhm.
we have to make our homes beautiful, inspiring, and a place of joy. It has to be more attractive than what the world offers them. Video games, easy, that no matter what I'm disciplining, I can come home and they know this is safe, that they know the depth, the experience, they know they're loved unconditionally, but they know we have fun. It has to be a place of adventure. So it requires a lot of intentionality. But here's what I realize, Frank, is that if a man and a woman lacks the awareness and the skill and the training and the discipline, they simply cannot give what they do not have. And so children are suffering today anxiety, entitlement, and I can always directly point it to the parents' lack of awareness of it and lack of skill training. Not to a fault of our own, because once again, where's the training in how to manage your mind, your emotion?
Mhm.
Where's the training on discipline? We don't even have character training in our school anymore. We don't even have understanding of the beautiful gift of being a man and a woman. So all that is yanked out of our infrastructure of our school. So I don't necessarily blame parents, but I do think that it is still our responsibility to say, I'm going to push back against culture. And the only way I do that is to equip my children with the right mindset and skill set and teach them to live a life of discipline that ultimately leads to their greater freedom, which I think, in my opinion, in the last 150 years, women have been fighting for freedom. In my opinion, it's gone to the radical extreme of the freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want, to a point that you can be a cat if you feel like a cat today. I think the two radical extremes from no freedom to no limits has both given us data that doesn't work. What I think is the true desire right now, women, is interior freedom, the freedom to choose our highest and best self. That is the ultimate freedom. And I think that's the freedom that we need to cast a vision for this kind of woman, but ultimately this kind of man. Because if a man does not have self discipline, or a woman, she's not going to have confidence. It doesn't matter. It's fake confidence
Sure.
because you need that. So I think that's we need to start with the next generation. And I do think we need to embolden men and women to have invest in themselves, to invest in their families.
I like a lot of the things you said there. Tell me a little bit about an example or two of what you're doing. So you have 8 kids. What are the ages?
16 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
So, like, let's just go with the 7 or 8-year-olds. Like, what are you doing? What are some of the things you do to
Mhm.
raise good humans?
Well, I'll tell you, I am imperfect in so many
Of
ways, and I
course, we
make a
all
lot
are.
of mistakes. But I am intentional about it. So just the first thing that comes into my mind is when my children, they're upset about they're overthinking about something and they start to kind of like, and I say, oh, pause, mind over emotion. You flip your thoughts to command your emotion. And so they'll quickly mind over emotion. So my teenagers are quick to, it's like, mind over emotion, mom. Got it. I can flip my script. So that's one just practical training. I have a script book in my drawer, kitchen drawer. Everybody, all my kids know it. And I am very intentional about rewiring their brain. To have a beautiful life, you need to have a positive language. So they're writing hundreds of scripts on a daily basis. It's just part of our way of life. So I'll do a flip script and then, I put my shoes back where it belongs. Just so there's mindset training. We do, uh, I do a lot of prep work in terms of selling them on the why. So um, there's a lot of conversations behind. I think sales skills is what every mother's need, possibly every father's. I think we all need it. So, for example, my 7-year old, a couple years ago, right before school start, I would say, okay, let's train that other people's opinion does not have to be the opinion that we hold of ourselves. Because I knew that 7-year olds, they'll start talking to each other. And so one day, totally forgot about it. And my daughter Ina came and she's like, "Mom, this guy, was saying some mean things about me." I was like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" I was like, just like, "Don't worry, Mom. His opinion of me is not my opinion of me." And it was like, matter of fact, I'm like, I teach 50-year-old women to do this and rewire their brain over and over again.
Yep.
Like it's so I teach them about the 95% of the brain. So I think those are just some practical things, but really it's kind of infused throughout our day.
Gotcha. I was just curious to see what
Yeah,
exactly
sure.
some of the tactics you're using are and are working.
Keep it
Um,
simple, I think that's the end. Sometimes it's overwhelming a lot of information. Like, you do this and we can take that information that we hear that good, but you need the foundation. You need to understand some of the skill set that I think are foundational: decision making, managing your mind, managing your emotion. And if you have that, I think as a foundation as a mother, as a father, you can quickly kind of embody that and all the things can be just good additional strategies.
no, I think it's great. So I'm in a few masterminds, and I take them really seriously, and they're really great. And I think that goes back to what you said earlier: the closest people
Yes.
around you, that whole thing. What do you talk to women about when it comes to their circle?
Mhm.
How do you walk them through that process to become aware of that their circle may not be serving them,
Yeah.
and what to do next?
Yes, I think we're the average of the 5 people we surround ourselves with. I think every season requires a new season of actually friends. What I mean by that is maybe that served you at one point when you were working or single or maybe new mom. But as you continue to grow, you also have to grow your circle. Otherwise, you're going to get pulled down. So I'm very intentional that part of friendship is actually attachment and detachment. You have to detach because some friends grow in different ways. And then you have to find people. The two things that I think are often missed in friendship is that we need to find friends that are growing with us and dreaming with us. And I think the idea of friendship is ought to be an accountability of helping us to actually fulfill our call and our dreams. Otherwise, what's the purpose of friendship? Yes, you should have fun. Yes, you should, but to walk us along the life of saying, I'm not going to leave you where you are. I am here to accompany you because I see something greater than you. And so really redefining almost the kind of friendship and the people that we surround ourselves with, and less is more. A lot of times we do a lot, and I think in a world that's going so fast and hustle and bustle, one of the things that I see is really lacking is depth of time and depth of meaning. So finding quality friendships. But more importantly, all this I think hinges on the fact that you can be in those masterminds, but if you lack the skill to have quality conversation, to know how to be fully present with a person, to empathize, to learn to listen, you could be in those great masterminds and never actually maximize your capacity for greater depth and meaning in conversation. You and I can go in this conversation because I can tell that you're skilled in your conversation, your ability to go deep. And I can walk away from this and say, I'm so nourished and I'm so grateful. Even in one encounter, you could nourish my soul and hopefully vice versa. But that's, I think, the kind of friendship that we should be aspiring for in a world that's going so fast.
Social media. How do you
Mhm.
think that's affecting negatively or positively men and women, specifically women, I guess? Um, I mean, just thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Kids as
I think
well.
for women, I think negatively in a sense that they're seeing perhaps a version of people that they want and they feel inadequate. Also, the temptation of when you feel unfulfilled in your life, it's a numbing place because then you'd rather look at other people's lives.
Hmm.
So it becomes a crutch, a distraction. And because we lack the skill of discipline, it becomes a dangerous place. I think it's an incredible place to create impact if you know how to use it for the good. So it's like a gun, not the again, if you use it to defend yourself, obviously it's a
Hmm.
good thing, but if you're using it because you don't know how to use it for whatever reason. So that's how I think to use it. One of the ways that I teach women to use social media is it's a great place to find role models. Look at their lives. Look at the exercise. Look what they're eating. Look at their friendship. Look at their words, their conversation. That's a great way because just in our crazy world, we often don't see the people in close contact, even those that we want to model after. That's a great way to find role models. That's where I find my role models, and I can do it very quickly. And even I teach women how to design their self-image. Make it 5 minutes, even at the end of the day, and just look through the people that you really follow. Find 3 people, and you just seeing how they live because you model it. I always think of the Roger Bannister story, and from
The four
people.
minute mile.
Yeah, but no, so many people never thought it was possible, but 20,000 people did it. But that's what modeling does. But I think specifically for women, that you can actually be a complete dedicated mother, have a purpose, and build whatever you're called to, whether it's a career or both. Be so in love with your man. Also, really create a home that's inspiring, but also love and honor your value as a woman and be the kind of mother. So take all those pieces that you want and design you like you would design a home. Why would we never imagine to design ourselves? We design any beautiful architecture. You would never build a house without first getting a blueprint. And yet we assume just because we are born a woman, just because we're in this life, we just say, well, whatever goes. There's no proper design. And we wonder why, 80% of men and women feel unfulfilled with their life. Well, they don't even know what they want with their life. They didn't even know that they wanted this to be a doctor or, they just didn't know. And I think part of it is that we don't know our value. We just think that what makes us valuable is money, fame, fortune, because that's what we've been told for decades. And so we don't know what our unconditional worth.
I have a couple of questions that I want to go to because this is
Sure.
really interesting. I'm just writing some notes so I don't forget.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about you and
Mhm.
tell me about your early childhood. I always like to ask all my guests about their early childhood and how they grew up, good, bad, and to see if it has anything, how it
Absolutely.
shaped you to be where you are, who you are and where you are.
Yeah. So my earliest memories was in the slums of the Philippines. No bathroom. Friends were bathroom was on in the water because that's all you had. I didn't know any better. It was rich to me, rich with joy and laughter. So I didn't know. And so my parents, who had a kind of challenging marriage, but they always tried to aspire for the next life and the next life. And so, I mean, success in life. So I saw ourselves kind of move up to the next little house and a little, shack. I didn't know any better. I just was really grateful. At 7 years old, my parents decided, being a third world country, we wanted more opportunities for our children. So my parents left for the United States, and they had a pretty decent middle class business there. Um, and they came to the United States to become nannies. And I didn't see them for 5 years straight. But in those 5 years, I dreamt of the American dream.
So wait, they just make sure I'm clear. They moved to America and became nannies for 5 years, and you stayed in the Philippines with who?
My aunts, my uncle, to secure,
Gotcha.
because that
Just your
was the
family,
right way
extended
to
family.
get it. Yes. Yeah. So even though there were lonely times, I lived a life of adventure with the beach. I call myself an island girl because that's what the Philippines was. So in some ways it taught me to raise myself, because I've had to kind of talk to myself. So I was a very pensive child. I thought a lot about life simply because I think I didn't have anybody to talk to. And I saw hardship, and I think I received that as a gift now. I don't take America for granted. I don't take the gift of, the material things that we have for granted, because it was not available to me. It wasn't handed to me. And I saw my parents labor for it. So I didn't see them for 7 years straight. But in that process, in my own journey as a woman, because my mother wasn't there, my father, and so much of your identity comes from your father. My father's a good man, so is my mom. I, if you're Filipino, at least from my own experience, you just always saw yourself as a second class citizen. I don't know. That was just my experience. It was the Americans, and you were just never as good. And so I remember clearly thinking, Frank, when my parents came, finally, my mom came and picked us up in the Philippines. Um, I remember thinking, I will never find a husband because nobody will ever want a Filipino. Like that insecurity as an 11-year-old, I'm sorry, as an 11-year-old, really kind of shaped my thinking, and your belief shapes your thinking. And so my belief that you're never going to be as beautiful physically as an American, because that was my perception, kind of also shaped my choices. And so the first guy that I think liked me, I thought, what? I remember crying, like thinking, what? Why would a guy like me? And so that's at 11 years old, 12 years old. And so I think that became sort of my journey of insecurity. And then, oh, they like you for your body. So then then you don't have understanding of how you to use your body. So maybe you'll dress a little bit, kind of inappropriately to get the attention. So that I think was sort of my own lack of training. And my mother was a great mom, but she was an immigrant. And I think that she didn't necessarily know how to manage. So much I think of my formative years shaped my conviction because I suffered because nobody ever showed me how. And I think I was not alone. I wanted to prove myself. I didn't have the language for it. I wanted to, so I quickly kind of became, I went to, what's it called? I became class president and wanted to say, oh, I can make it, and all I think homecoming queen, all the material things. Because my parents worked for a billionaire, she showered us with such materialism. So I sort of kind of got thrown into this American world, and I was unhappy because I had the material, I had sort of all these external things that made you think that's what makes you valuable, your body, what school you go to, the popularity, the materialism. I was empty. I feel like I had it. And I remember feeling lonely, Frank. I remember thinking, nobody has meaningful conversation because I came from the Philippines. And because it was poor, we laughed. We had deep conversation at first grade, at second grade. I, and I just saw the difference, I think, without necessarily having the language. And so I think I went on a quest. I remember thinking my junior year, I said, I want nothing to do with this. I didn't go to my prom my senior year. I was like, I'm done. I'm disgusted with like my life, and my parents lost their job. Anyway, there's a lot of circumstance behind it. Then I went on a journey and say, I want to be around people who care. I want I want to get to know me. And I think that began my journey. And then I met a mentor in college who said, January, what kind of woman do you want to be? And I remember laughing. And I said, you can't design you. She's like, let's design you. And I met her almost every single month for 3.5 years. She gave me homework every single month. And she said, January, the first homework was to get rid of comparison and competition. Get up at 4:30 in the morning so you can plan your day and make your bed before you go to the bathroom. And I did it. I anything she said, I did it because I was so hungry and lonely and really didn't value myself that I was hungry for her mentorship, and it changed my life forever.
What did she do?
She held me accountable. So every single month
What I
I
mean
would
is like, sorry, what did she do for her? Like, what was her profession?
oh, she was actually had a psychology degree, but she was a consecrated. She's not a nun. She wasn't a nun, but she was single, consecrated, and she really was there to mentor women. But her name was Elena. I write about her in my book. But she had a psychology degree, which I think that helped me. That was, so she used so much of her psychology degree to kind of give me homework. I mean, it was so practical. Like I told her, I said, Elena, I wanted to be beautiful. Like I just like deep inside, and we defined what beautiful is. And it was no longer exterior. It was it was beautiful that I gave life to every single person that I came in contact to, that I believed in them, that I built in them, that I inspired them. And so she taught me how to do that.
It's an amazing story, by the way. I don't know how you did it. Thank you for sharing it. I
Thank you for
don't understand.
listening.
It's funny, January. I don't know how. I have a 7, 8 year old. I know you do too. Well, he's 7. He's not 7 or 8. He's 7. But I think about saying bye for 5 years, and what a huge sacrifice your parents made, and how brave they were. And I'm just blown away. And then it's for you to go through that and come out the way you strong on the other side. I just feel like I know you're with your family, but you always long for your parents. And so
Sure.
do you think that, how did that affect you? I'm just curious how you think that affected you through your
Mm.
life, that gap of not having your parents. I mean, I know you glossed over it, but it had to be
Mhm.
a pretty big deal at the time.
I remember moments in my life. Thank you for recognizing that. Honestly, I think it was harder on my parents than it was on me. I mean, I cannot do it. I just, you have a 7 year old. There's just,
Yeah.
the grace was there for them. So my parents would call, and at that point, long distance was thousands of dollars a month. Like I remember they would pay $1,000 for long because there was no phone. So they would listen to my parents would cry. I would hear them crying, and it was hard for them to talk. And then they would have a video camera, and then it would take a month to send it to the Philippines. They would watch us grow. I mean,
That's
you would
tough.
think that's, yeah, but so honestly, to me, it's deep gratitude
Hmm.
because they gave me an opportunity that I don't think I would have had in the Philippines, in my opinion. I would have not known any better. Deep gratitude, they sacrificed their life. I mean, they were living comfortably. They had nannies, like, and then they had to be nannies to come here. I mean, talk about the humility, the sacrifice. So I just, I think that's the right word, is deep gratitude. In terms of what it did for me, honestly, it made me very pensive as a woman. It made me kind of say, well, what's the purpose of sacrifice? But it also made me very defensive about the American dream. I feel like I came here and, like, you do the Pledge of Allegiance. Like, I didn't see my parents because of that flag. Like, don't squander that. I am indebted to America. So when I see people who say, I'm going to leave America when blah, 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 I'm like, you have no idea what immigrants have to go through.
It's unfortunate.
No, yeah, like my parents would cry every single time they get on the phone for this life that they paid for that you are squandering. So you want to know how I feel? I get really feisty about it
Yeah.
because my parents laid down their life for the American dream. And I am eternally grateful. And you're squandering because go all over the world and tell me if there's a country better than America. Sure,
Yeah.
it's imperfect, but by golly gee, don't squander the gift of our freedom to be an American. So,
We're on the same page there. I feel the same way. My dad was in the military and a
mm,
lot of my grandparents, but the point is I appreciate when someone comes here and works hard and comes the right way, and not to get political, but I think it's great that you're a shining example of hard work, what I wish everybody would do. So I think it's an amazing story.
well, thank you. I think that I honor you, Frank, because I think the more people actually speak up about defending our country, not because we don't want people in, but because I think it's a noble cause. I think it's worthy of defending. So I do think that more people are actually want to do it. But when I remember when I first did it, I'll just side story. This was like 5 years ago, and I talked about being grateful as an immigrant. The town that I came from, they were literally ostracizing me. They're like, how could you say that about being an American? I'm like, how could you not? The perception,
Mm.
and these were from Americans. I was honestly shocked at that perception. And, you know, your parents were from, you said that you're military brat or what they would call it.
Well, my dad was in the military, but yeah, but all of us are immigrants. My grandparents came from Italy. Like
Us.
everybody's from somewhere
Mhm.
at some
Yeah, but
point.
you're right. But just a sense of I think gratitude, but also speaking up against the gift of being an American. I
Mhm.
think, yeah, I think I get fiery about it.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not? Especially when it's provided you all this opportunity. Tough story, and it makes me. And like you said, you could never. It's just such. Your parents are so brave. I don't know
They are.
how they did it. What this comes to me, when I hear when you talk about the things we're talking about, you're helping women. But I wonder what goes off in my mind is a not a red flag, but a kind of question mark is you train what if you have a woman that comes to you and you're like, here's what makes you a great person, and all these facets to make them, whole based on all the ideals that you talked about, which is amazing, health, friendship, intimacy, wealth, and everything else that you teach. What if the husband's not on board? What if the values aren't there? So, am I wrong to say that the values, like, I almost feel like it's a family unit, right? That's one of the pillars we talk about in my mastermind. And it's like, okay, how do they get the spouse on board? Because I think that could be with men too, right? So the spouse has to be involved. and how do you bring them along on the journey, and then the values at home to make sure everybody's on the same page? And how do you deal with that?
So I tell the women, you cannot come into it trying to change a man.
Yeah.
The only hope you have is to inspire him to want to change himself. Because
Mhm.
the moment you try to change a man, you have lost him. So I always tell the woman, live your life so profoundly that everyone that comes in contact with you, most importantly your spouse, is so inspired they want what you have. So it's not, it's challenging when one spouse is not. But I don't know if you can force them. I think you can simply invite them. And that's
Yeah.
really, I see that as a roadblock, a challenge. And so, yes, it is absolutely a family unit. One of the things, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
I was just going to ask, on that, do you ever keep track of how many women come to you that are single versus married? And I feel like if they're single is one of the first things you talk about, picking a mate.
Yes.
Like that's
Mhm.
so how important that is, or no?
Oh, so we have thousands of students. It'd be really good to have a number. I would say 90% are married and maybe 10% single.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Um, don't have accurate data, but just
Yeah.
I think that's from my experience with just being with our community, uh, which is really to me, if I could sell it to single women, you could save your lifetime.
I mean,
In
this
my
is I mean, I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, the opportunity for
yeah,
single women.
yes, and so because there is no, I mean, I've been in this 25 years. The issue that I often find is that there's maybe wealth training or maybe
Yes.
health, but it's not
Mhm.
integrated, and
Yes.
it doesn't
Agreed.
involve the skill after skill. So part of it is that it is an investment of time and an investment financially. And I tell women all the time, when I did this for free, people dabbled on their training. So a lot of single women feel like they can't commit at the time, they can't commit. So I have to do a better job selling them on themselves. But I think if we can catch them when they're single is the best place because there's no collateral damage quite like if you have marriage and children. The hardest thing for me, Frank, to be sincerely honest with you, is when I come into a woman who comes to our school and they've gone through the training and they've learned hundreds of skills and their mind is open and they realize and they come to me and they said, I think I married the wrong man. And it's hard for me because there's children involved and I wouldn't want them to wreck their family. But there's a part of me that feels like if somebody just showed you how to make the right choice, how to develop a standard and have the skills to actually choose, maybe you wouldn't have married the wrong man because that's a suffering. To have the most intimate part of you be so distant from you. I mean, that's a cross to bear, I think.
Yeah. And then you get into the conversation of cut the cord, better to cut the cord, or,
Yeah. No, you're right. My
and that,
parents are divorced.
yeah. Yeah. And so I think I think you go back and forth. Each situation is unique, but most of the time it's probably best so that, if you're going to be miserable and
Sure.
arguing and fighting and causing a chaotic environment for the kids, much better, I feel like, to go your separate ways and be better parents and that kind of thing. But that's tough. And,
It's tough because there's
yeah.
still consequence. So yes, that's what I mean. I think it's challenging because
Mhm.
I don't think there's any easy solution.
Yeah.
The children become the collateral damage, and there's deep hurt in there because the foundation is rocked, and then the foundation even of their perception of marriage is rocked, and how they make that choice. And think about even the repercussions of skill building and mindset training, and there's opposing views. I mean, so yes, but then do you stay in a relationship? That's what I saw my parents. They stayed for 29 years and I convinced them to get a divorce because it was hard
Really?
for them and for me. Yes. And because I saw my dad, well, just both of them just physically suffering actually. Like the stress level of their marriage caused my dad to have a heart attack and my mom. I mean, it was just so I guess that's why it is challenging for me because I don't think there's any easy route, and which is why I say if we can catch women and men when they're single, you could save yourself a
They don't
lifetime.
know. They don't know. And, it's really interesting to me, and no one focuses on that. and mostly because it's not talked about. But you read any book like Think and Grow Rich, and it talks about that in the book, even back then, how
Yeah.
important it is. And but if you don't come across that book in time, or you're not a reader at that point in time, or that kind of thing. So
Yeah, but I think we also have I would say, a systemic issue where education is seen as sort of a burden.
yes.
So I think there is a systemic. So then they just want to get out of anything that
Hmm.
actually helps them develop themselves. We've made it so almost distant from um, the desires of their heart, they love, what makes them feel alive. Like sometimes my kids come home from school and it's like, Mom, sometimes I don't even know what the point of this. And there's almost a loss of love of learning. And I just said that the point of this PA is that you develop discipline and habit, obviously. But there is a part of me that feels like, where's the wonder? Where's the joy of learning? Like for you in personal development, probably in your experience, there is almost a dopamine of learning something that you feel like you see the direct correlation in your life, in your career, in your marriage. Sometimes our education system has almost become it's like inhumane in a sense that it's distant. It's like you forget the heart and you're learning all this math and you're learning, and then you come home and there's tons of homework that divides the family. I'm like, what's the point of that homework? They're not even going to remember it. What would they remember? Mom's hug, sitting on their lap together, laughing. Like,
Yep.
so I don't give my children the pressure. And, in the women's school, we have this thing, what we call poisonous peas. I teach in frameworks and formulas, so it's replicable. So we have so many frameworks and formulas. And one of the frameworks that I teach is this concept called poisonous pea. It's poisons our self-worth. We revere, what we consider valuable is power, possession, what we produce, popularity, perfection. And so from a very young age, second grade, third grade, what do they see their value? An A. Like that becomes their identity. I'm an A student, I'm a B student. And that's what we celebrate. That's what we revere. That's what gets the accolades, and not the child that maybe worked twice as hard, but maybe got a C, but worked twice as hard.
I read a study about a group of kids. They had two groups of kids. One group they rewarded with grades, right? For, hey, good job on the result. And the other group, they provided accolades along the way for persevering and good job doing the work, good job sticking with it. And the group that performed the best was the one that they gave the praise to along the way for persevering and doing a good
Mhm.
job with challenges and that kind of a thing. So it's interesting. I think that goes right in line with what
Makes
you're
sense.
talking about.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we focus so much on the result and not the development of the human person. But I think part of it is that we've become really kind of, in some ways, we've forgotten the person in our culture. I mean, a good example of that, when you're responding to people on social media, it's almost as though you forget that there's a human person in there. You can say whatever you want, do whatever you say without the consequence that there's a heart, there's a soul in it, there's a story. And it's like we don't think about that anymore. Or just think about the images that sometimes we see. And I talk to women, you ever seen those like 50% she dresses that better, 60%? It's almost like we compare
Yeah.
what women look like. And I thought, I know we've normalized comparison and competition almost as though we don't even see the story of a woman. Like, how would that person feel to feel like she's defined by her outfit and she's 20% more than this? I mean, nobody even says anything, Frank. It's like we've normalized this. And it's the same for men. So we've dehumanized our culture to a point that we've become so calloused of the importance of every human heart, every encounter. Like, we come in here, we don't think, wow, this was a profound gift that I have in this present moment to be with you, Frank. And the gift of the present moment is that I can harvest from you, vice versa. We don't think that way anymore. We've lost that depth.
Do you think that we have social media, we
Mhm.
have AI, technology? Do you think it's going to get, I think it's more important I think it's even becoming even more important. But I feel like that's pulling everybody away from even wanting to be interested in it. How do you feel technology is going to play a role as we move forward?
I think it's going to make humanity more being actually a quality human being almost very attractive. I mean, unfortunately, what I mean by that is I
Mhm.
think there's going to be a hunger for the physical encounter. I think that we're going to go back into this idea of let's go back to conversation. I think, like two pendulums swinging together. I think we're going to say, wait a minute. Okay, that's AI, but actually, I want a cashier to talk to.
Yeah.
Where maybe
Right.
before we ignored the cashiers, I
Yeah.
think that's where I think, and actually, I hope is almost kind of a correction, because I think we're overcorrecting into AI, and even Elon Musk talks about how dangerous AI is going to be, and I think I just think that I pray and I hope that there's enough human being that's going to say, okay, humans are still the most important thing in the world. Like it's not the cows.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
made a
Yeah.
political statement.
Yeah. That's kind of funny.
Indirectly.
Yeah. 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 That's funny. No, I agree. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I think this has been a great conversation.
I agree. Thank you.
Tell me, what are the top 3 tasks, or maybe the top 3 items you would give any
Mhm.
female that they should start to focus on to help them on this journey? Let's say this isn't even on their radar.
Yeah.
What would they, obviously go to your website. We'll talk about that in a second,
Sure.
but what are 3 things they can work on to help them on this journey? A book to read, a step to take, a whatever.
Yeah. I would say step one is we do this exercise in the woman's school is what do I no longer want to put up with? What do I not want to put up with? Now, if I can take it one step further and say, what do you not want to put up with in every arena of your life? Those 8 wheels. I don't want to put up with the fact that I'm insecure. I don't want to put up with the fact that I don't like my body. I don't want to put up with the fact that he's actually not into me. What do you not want to put up with? And then flip it. What do you really? So those 2 exercise actually takes you to almost a point of, wait a minute, have I been going and just doing this thing that everybody thinks I should be doing and never paying attention to what I really want? But it's just the first step. Just because you want it doesn't mean that that's what's best for you. But I think it's just an awareness of you. Um, the second thing I would tell women is rewire. And when I say this, your unconditional worth. What I mean by that is because we've been told that what makes us valuable as human being is our power of possession. If you could say this every single day, subconsciously, like learning a language, rewiring, like a stroke victim learning to walk again, my worth is unconditional. Nothing replaces my value. Nothing. Like your worth is unconditional. Not your performance, not how much money you make, not how popular, not your body. Your worth is never on the line. What does that mean? It means that if you look at your DNA, your place in history, all the probabilities of your circumstance, you're the most unique, irreplaceable, rare human being. And by that biological evidence, you are so valuable that what you offer the world, no one can. And you can go scientifically, even the evidence. So, what's the second thing is just my worth is unconditional. My value does not change. Nothing changes my value. Not a boy likes me, not a boy doesn't like me, how much money. So, and the third thing is invest in skill training. I do think that it doesn't matter what you want, it matters what you commit to, and then you'll get what you want. So, pay for your growth.
Invest in yourself, essentially.
Yeah, invest in yourself. And everything else almost hinges on investing in yourself. All those 3 things, because they said the richest place is in the graveyard, rich of meaning, rich of life, because we buried the very thing that we were here on earth for. Because even Mozart, if he never trained, even, what's the swimmer? Oh, Michael Phelps.
Michael
If he
Phelps.
never, trained every day, he would have never discovered his purpose as an Olympian. And so we have this potential, but we have to invest. And really, I always say, women, I said, when you decide to invest in yourself, welcome to a life of discipline.
That's right. I love it. Where can people find you?
You can go to January Donovan on Instagram or the Woman's School. And then we have from there, you can join our Woman's School community where I do a lot of this practical life training for free. And you can also go to thewomenschool.com. And from there, you can also be directed to our Women's School community for free.
Amazing. I appreciate your time today. It's been a great
I
conversation.
appreciate No, I appreciate you for asking questions, but actually, I really appreciate the depth of your questions, but also the openness of because I think we talked a lot about a lot of touchy issue without making it touchy. I mean, in a sense
Yeah.
that it's sort of taboo, but I really honor that, Frank, and I honor that men are willing to have these conversations that I think is overdue, and we just need the leadership of men out there to say, "Listen, I welcome this
I,
hard conversation."
I think it's really important. And I don't know if you've ever read this book. There's a book called The Boy Crisis.
No,
And
but I would like to.
I read the book and it really opened my eyes to
Mm,
the epidemic on the with the men, and I'm drawn to the same conversations on the female side because I think there is a gap in what's going on, and I think that you're doing great work and helping fix that problem, and so I commend you for that.
thank you. Thank
So
you.
that's great, and I wish you all the success, even though you already are a success. So
Well, I don't well, okay, so I think what success is here's it's so bold. Okay, I'm gonna just say this. So to me, what does success really mean? Like that, I think it's an important question. And I was pondering about this, and it's really the fulfillment of what our calls are that's unique to us. And I thought, we need a new model of woman. That's how I would feel successful, in a sense that if we can establish a training school on how to be a woman and make that a household brand that women have access to training, I would feel like I have fulfilled what I think I was here on earth for, which is to be a teacher. I say it's in my graveyard. What are you, a student and a teacher? So that to me, if we can invite women, if I can sell women and themselves, which I'm like, I have to learn sales skills, but whatever it takes, honestly, this is the truth. I'm like,
yeah,
I've got to sell women and selling themselves. And so I'm like, you have to invest in you. So that's how I would feel where women can say, oh, I have a place to know how to be a woman. I no longer have to compromise my womanhood and I know how to honor men. Can you imagine? Training.
I love it. I think it's great. I
Thank
think it's
you.
great.
It's a bold dream. Thank you.
You're on your way. Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully everybody will come and find you and learn more. Everybody knows if they need anything or they need to get in contact with you. We'll include your links in the podcast description. And if anybody needs to get in contact with me, they know they can go to frankrita.com. And I appreciate it. Until next time, everybody. Thanks,
Thank
January.
you. Thank you.